If you like the video, then please consider supporting Slope's Game Room on Patreon. Hey there guys, it's DJ Slope here, coming to you from my Hilton hotel room, right next to the wonderful world of EGX 2018, who, by the way, has a bloody pancake maker. Did I enjoy those? For those of you that don't know, EGX is the closest thing us UK gamers have to a British E3. Now, although I have never been to E3 yet, the lovely folk at Sega were kind enough to travel me to EGX in Birmingham via the Virgin train with those talking toilets.
Hello, it's me, the toilet.
To yet again try out plenty of Sega goodness. You got Fist of the North Star, which I am very excited to play more of. Wasn't expecting the game to be quite as deep as that was. Total War 3 Kingdoms, which seemed to get a great response from all who played it. 2 Point Hospital, which is one of the best games I've played in ages. Persona 5 Dancing in the Starlight and Persona 3 Dancing in the Moonlight, which are fun rhythm games that I got pretty good at by the end of the weekend. And of course Team Sonic Racing, which was honestly one of my games of the show. Simply because it changes up the formula so bloody much. I think there are going to be some seriously confused people when this game drops, but honestly, when it does, I really do feel like it's going to have some hardcore followers. But aside from those AAA devs such as Sega and Ubisoft with Starlink Division 2 and Assassin's Creed 11, Square Enix with Just Cause 3, Kingdom Hearts 3 and Tomb Raider Revamp 3, Nintendo doing what Nintendo do, which is primarily showing off Smash Brothers, Pokemon games and their online service. Oh, and by the way, having the Sega logo right next to the Nintendo with a massive Total War logo between them. That did make me chuckle. And of course, PlayStation, probably taking up half the bloody show floor with what they had to offer, as well as the lovely big PlayStation Illumination sign that everybody was taking pictures in front of. Wait for it, I'm about to hit my head. There you go. Besides all of this and plenty of other big titles, which I'm not going to lie, all pretty much looked and from what I played were all quite fun to experience. If you was looking for Slope's Game Room, you're probably going to be finding him right near the front of the arena, chilling out with all of the indie developers. These are the guys to keep an eye on, people. Sure, you can queue for an hour or two to play Spider-Man, which is already out, or you could wait probably no longer than 10 minutes and play something that really does push the limits of game makers' imagination. There was so much variety in this part of the hall, and over the 4 days I was at the event, I became constantly surprised at what was available here from the little guys that I decided to create a video showcasing 10 games that I really hope do well. So without further ado, this is my personal top 10 indie games from EGX 2018. Welcome to Slope's Game Room. Number 10. So let's start off with a game that I couldn't not add. What happens when you mix Tony Hawk's with Slope's Game Room? You get Tony Slopes. Okay, so let me set it straight for you. This doesn't really play anything like a Tony Hawk game, or Slope's Game Room game for that matter, but the name did grab my attention for obvious reasons. The game is essentially a massive race down some twisty-turny slopes on office chairs, or perhaps massive whales. The game sort of reminds me of that Kung Fu Rider game that came out on the PlayStation 3, but thankfully, where that game should have been a quality fun night in with a few slope beers, it was simply annoying as it forced onto you plenty of motion controls. This one, however, doesn't. So be sure to grab yourself a case of Slope's Game Room beers and check out this stupid game when it eventually launches. Number 9. No, I didn't put this one in the 9th place because it's called 999. I put it here because I get a massive kick out of games such as The Impossible Game, Slime Sand and The End Is Nigh. And if you are familiar with those titles, then this should really be a no-brainer. 999 levels of pure frustration that sadly is all your fault. You control whatever this is and your job is to get over here. As you may have guessed, with 999 levels you are seriously going to be wound up the further you get into the game. Time will slip away as you make your way through this fairly obvious game, and before you know it you will be a purple Furby bouncing thing expert. The game is available now for less than $9.99 and I apologise in advance for the loss of your hair. Number 8. Oh guys, this one couldn't be more up my street. Anyone here a fan of Prison Architect? I know I am. Well, this is Honey, I Joined a Cult. I am super obsessed with documentaries based around the twisted side of religious worship, and this game seriously puts a big smile on my face. At the time of making this game, it still got a fair way to go as the tutorial was a little confusing. Thankfully, I had one of the devs there to help me through the basics, and oh my god, was I happy with what I played. You build up your rooms, assign worshippers in a shift-like fashion to man those rooms, send people to the hypno rooms to brainwash them further, send people to the street to try and lure passers-by in, check out how much money they've got so you can decide who you want to focus on raising up the ranks the quickest. Seriously guys, at this stage I'm not sure how deep the game will go, but it was so much fun to play for the short while that I did play it, and I will 100% be picking it up when it eventually gets released. Number 7. There was a serious amount of VR at EGX 2018, and honestly I'm really starting to see the future potential of my often dusty PSVR headset. One of the biggest sections for PlayStation was the PSVR section, and obviously the PC area of the floor was showing off some pretty awesome stuff too. One of the smaller games for VR which I had a good time playing was Arcas Path. Now, there is a story told by some artistic cutscenes of a young teenage looking lass living in a world filled with rubbish, where she then finds some weird fluffy goggles and now she's able to roll a ball around in her mind all monkey ball styly. Or something like that. Yeah, I'm sure I missed something here, but regardless the game was pretty fun. Controlled only by the tilting of your head, you guide a ball through an artistic maze of ever increasing difficult paths to eventually get to the end to then do a harder one. It's so simple, but it looks great, it plays great too, and for me, I always wondered why Sega didn't go down this road with Monkey Ball. So, Arcas Path, when it eventually drops on my birthday for all major VR headsets, will indeed be a game I am 100% gonna purchase. Number 6. Factorio. I talked about this game before and got completely butchered in the comments for calling it Factorio. Was a game I spent a silly amount of time on. Imagine turning the resource management sections of your favourite RTS game into a ridiculously brilliant game of their own, full of conveyor belts and trains and everything else. Well, now I get to do it all again with Production Line. Currently in early access over on Steam, what you got to do here is build a production line, obviously, so that you can build cars in the most efficient way possible. And my god, as the game gets further down the line, it gets crazy. I only played some of the really early levels in the short amount of time I had with it, but as you can see here, the later levels can get seriously hectic. It's a game you're going to want to do over and over again to try and get the best efficiency out of your production line, and for fans of this is a no-brainer. Number 5. There is always room for another futuristic, stupidly fast racer, and Grip is a game that I have been keeping a very close eye on for some time. I first discovered the game at EGX Rezzed in London earlier on in the year, and although I had fun playing it, there was one big issue that sort of let it down for me, and that was the fact that it was way too physics based for my liking. The game felt great, but it was so easy to completely spin out of control and take an age to get back the right way. Don't get me wrong, I don't want a game like this to hold my hand, but at the same time it just seemed a little too unforgiving. However, now I've played it again a good 6 months or so later, that heavily physics-based gameplay seems to be leveled out ever so slightly, and the arcade feel has ever so slightly increased. The new formula is one that I ended up playing quite a few times over my weekend there at EGX, discovering different branching paths and new ways to take down the enemies. If you like these sort of games, then keep an eye out for its release on all platforms, including the Nintendo Switch on November the 6th. Number 4. Okay, so this one is crazy weird, bloody hard to get your head around to begin with, and stupidly addictive when you do so. Wavy the Rocket is a game where you play as Wavy the Rocket, and by using the mouse you control the X-axis and the Y-axis of the character's waveform. It's stupidly frustrating at first, but boy is it addictive and brilliantly unique. The wider the wavelength, the faster it goes, and the steeper the wavelength, the more of the screen it covers, and therefore, the more likely you are to hit one of the obstacles. There is a demo from the dev's website, so you guys can go and try it out yourself if you fancy, because, guys, out of everything on this list, this is easily the most intriguing. Every time you cross a checkpoint it feels like a genuine achievement, and when you eventually hit the brilliantly designed boss battles, tackling them will seriously test your skills. You have never played a game like this, and thankfully if you spend long enough with it, you will indeed become addicted. Number 3. Flotsam, or Float Sam, whatever you want to call it, is the next game on my list, and if you have ever wanted to turn this into a video game, and I mean a good video game, then, well, Float Sam is for you. And by the way guys, Waterworld is actually a bloody good movie. Anyway, in the game, you're living in a world that is obviously flooded, and it's your job to build a community on top of the water using the garbage and debris left over by the destroyed Earth. Sounds like a pretty simple SimCity-esque game, right? Well, kind of. And in all honesty, a new sim game like this would be enough. However, this game actually throws a few twists and turns that only a city building game on water would be able to provide. Do you risk your men swimming to gather scrap metal and risk them getting eaten up, or do you use your resources to build boats? When you see that much needed resource in the distance so far, you gotta act quickly because it might get washed away. It's such a cool idea, and one that I am very excited to see what later levels in the game will include. Number 2. Okay, we're into the final few here now guys, and under Crude, oh my god, it seriously blew me away. Right, so at first it looks pretty much like FTL, right? Well, sort of, but this one is very much more multiplayer based. Local or co-op or a mix of the two is the flavour of the month with this game, and boy, playing the game multiplayer is going to be so much fun. So after arguing about what rooms will do what, you then need to go off to complete certain missions. In the missions that I played, you simply needed to travel round and search for different little orbs in space. You do this by moving your character into the ship's steering room, and depending on where you stand in the small room, the ship will fly in that direction. And the same thing happens when you go into the several gun rooms, tractor beam rooms, and all the other rooms. I'm not sure what a game like this will be like later on, but in the EGX version I played, you controlled the whole thing by using just one analog. It's so simple and so incredibly fun. Play this with friends and you're in for a great night. Number 1. That whole pixel art style is huge within the retro gaming and indie scene right now. You've no doubt seen a few instances yourself on this very list. And, well, this isn't a bad thing, it's just a very common thing that, to be frank, is getting repeated over and over again. And for the #1 spot on our list, Ferris has yet again gone down the pixelated art style route. However, they have done a very weird trick with it to make it probably the most fluent pixel art I have ever seen. Would you look at this? I was told that it was designed in a weird way of digitizing sprites and then pixelating them to create something crazy unique, and for me at least it gets 2 thumbs way up. But the awesome thing about it is that on top of the beautiful artwork is a brilliant linear platformer. The game seriously took me back. We always imagined in our mind as a youngster what the future of gaming would look like, and when I played classics like RoboCop vs Terminator in my young pre-teen mind, this was the future. The gameplay is brilliantly solid, the soundtrack is pure heavy metal, and the design is gorgeous. For me, this feels like one of those indie titles that could easily become a full price limited edition game. I had so much fun blasting through the first level in this true classic shoot 'em up platform style game that we've all seen many times before, and from what I've played, I would put this bad boy right up there with some of the best. The game hasn't got a set release date yet, although 2019 is the expected launch, and for me it's easily going to be a day one purchase, especially considering it's also on the Switch. The perfect system for a game like this in my opinion, and I can't suggest you try it out enough. If the digital uppercut crew are at a con near you, go and meet the crew and play this utterly fantastic action heavy platformer. And so there you go guys, my review of the indie games worth keeping an eye on from EGX 2018. There were some obvious missing games on here like Tanglewood and Mau Mau Castle, but they was part of the overall obscure Sega sponsored Left Field collection that will be getting a quality little video of its own in the next few weeks. If you was at the con and saw a game worth getting that I didn't mention, then feel free to leave a mini review below for me to highlight. Hey there guys, thanks for checking out the video. I want to give a big special shout out to all of my Patreons, but first an extra big special shout out goes to That Retro Video Gamer, Ryan Burford, Gary Pinkett, Andrew Dalton, Aaron McNamara, Tomek Grabowski, Christopher Turnbull, Brent Craft, Ben Jackson, Ian Chapman, Phil Lowlins, Tim Labonte, Mike Fallon, Retro to Next Gen, Quang DX, Tim Lunn, Genovi, Video Game Basement, Hananaz, Pixels.Limited, aka Samuel Victor, Red the Beard, John Fuller, Conrad Constantine, Pretendo 64, Creamy Elephant, James Loveridge, Casey Garner, Blitz Hedgie, Ben Hall, Savage Garden Show, Brian Rawson, Gemma at Mr. T-Shirts, Sullux Captor, Scott Monday, Jeremy Rodriguez, Nick Pollard, Bram Perez, Garrett Leger, Marcus King Emo Cut, Tyndall, June, Rob Jenkins, The Geeky Dad, Richard Carter, AK Fantastic Dizzy, Todd Bullfloat G, and Petty Mew. If you want to get your name shouted out, get your name shown, come and see what I'm working on and all of that usual stuff, then please click the link that you see on the screen to come and support Slopes Game Room on Patreon, because it really does help make more episodes like this. But anyway, a big thanks to all of you for watching, but for now, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.